Hello, it's James and Watts. Welcome back to my knitting podcast on my YouTube channel where I talk about yarn and designing knitting patterns and knitting and spinning and weaving and music and whatever the hell else I want to talk about. Welcome, it's been a while. We have a lot to catch up on, but first, need my beverage. Today I'm drinking a Ghost Energy Zero Sugar Iced Tea Lemonade, which I've never tried that flavor. I just picked this up at the grocery store yesterday. I saw that flavor and was like, that's the one. I need to try it. I don't really feel like I need an energy drink right now, but these videos are long, so it's quite a task, so it could never hurt, you know? And it definitely is nice to give myself the treat of a little energy drink to enjoy sipping on while I film. Oh my god. So if you didn't notice, the quality is a little bit different because I'm back on the iPhone for today's podcast. And in true old-fashioned style, I'm gonna get up and check that the iPhone's recording. I'm sorry. I have to, if you're an anxious person, you get it. Okay, we're recording. But that is just the most typical bitch with anxiety behavior possible. Like, I know it's recording. I just hit the button less than 2 minutes ago. But I'm like, but what if it isn't? And here's the thing. I could record with the front camera and then I'd be able to see myself the whole time. But that's not as high quality, and I want y'all to have the best quality possible. The reason I'm not using my other camera is because my desktop where I edit those long videos is pretty old and it's a little bit on the fritz. I don't think it's totaled. I think something, either there's like a loose connection or something needs replacing. Actually, a gaming PC that I built myself, the one and only time I ever built a PC. And I built it probably in like 2015, 2016, so it's coming up on 10 years old. It's a little bit ancient. I don't know if that's in the frame. I want this can gone out of the frame. So it's been on, I've known, like, I've been using it to edit even though I could tell it's like crashing a lot. So it's been on my list to take it to a shop and hope that it's a simple fix. And I need to do that. But yeah, I was trying to boot it up to edit my last video and it was just a nightmare. This is actually my second time recording this. But that's okay. I have a good attitude about it. It's just an opportunity to make it even better. And we'll see how long it ends up being. The last time I recorded was like 2 hours and 40 minutes, which may have been a record for me. I feel like I've had a practice run and I'm gonna be able to be a little bit more focused and more succinct. We'll see. Maybe it'll end up being 4 hours. But yeah, I don't like to let stuff like that get me down. It's like, whatever. I'll use my iPhone. It's not a big deal. I'll do it again. I am feeling good with the way I look today. I'm having a beauty day. I feel like I went camping a couple weeks ago and I'm starting to pick up a little bit of that summer glow. Not someone who can really get a tan, but with enough sunscreen and enough patience and repeated exposure to UV, I start to slowly get a little bit of a summer glow and some freckles, which I really like. If I don't do sunscreen, then I'll just burn to a crisp. I'm also having a good hair day. And I feel like, I mean, in general, I'm hating the way my hair looks because it's so thin and I'm a bald-headed bitch. But when I like want to look nice and actually put some effort into my hair, I have started using a dry shampoo that really is helping. I feel like it makes it look so much fuller and nicer. Which, okay, also, to be fair, I'm using topical minoxidil and I'm taking oral minoxidil pills every day. So like, those are supposed to help with thinning, so maybe they're slowly helping, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't really get results, and then the people who do get results, it's like a 5% improvement. So I'm giving this W to the dry shampoo, but it's just this, I like used to use dry shampoo a lot actually, But I always felt like I liked the way it looked right when I put it on, and then within an hour of wear, it would just kind of look like it wasn't giving what it needed to give, and it wasn't giving what it did when I first put it on. My hair would just start to look oily kind of fast. And then I don't remember where I learned this, but I figured that it's the aerosol dry shampoos, all the like chemicals to make it an aerosol, like pressurized product. They're like not good for your hair and scalp, and they don't perform that well. So if you think you might like to style with a dry shampoo, find one that is not an aerosol. Find one that is just a little pump. And the one that I got, I think I wrote it down, is SGX NYC Dry Touch Shampoo, and I just got it at Walmart. I don't feel like it was that cheap though for something I bought at Walmart, but it's already lasting forever. I don't use it that much. It does give me a little bit of a powdery look to my hair. Maybe I don't work at it enough, but I don't mind the way that looks. It just makes me look a little bit, I already have kind of an ashy toned blonde, so it just makes me look a little bit grayer. I think it's pretty, but I don't know, maybe it would really show up on dark hair in a way you wouldn't like. I don't know. That's for you to experiment with and let me know. Let's also talk about what I'm wearing right off the bat. I'm wearing a new finished object. The last time you saw this, it was a whip. And this is my DK Basic drop sleeve sweater. Sometimes I can think of all the words in that name and sometimes I can't. And this pattern is in testing. It is the fourth in the lineage of my basic drop sleeve sweaters. It'll come out in August if you're looking for a basic drop sleeve sweater that is a 5 stitches per inch gauge. And if you haven't bought any of my drop sleeve sweater patterns and you haven't bought the ebook bundle, I recommend going on Ravelry and buying the ebook bundle while it's still discounted. The way I did that was I just keep bumping up the price every time I add patterns to it. But the people who bought it early still get all the patterns, right? So there will still be 2 more price increases for that ebook collection. We have not yet reached our final form. I love this sweater. I love the way it turned out. I love everything about it. I knit a size large. I'm kind of between a medium and a large for most of my designs at the moment, and I usually go for a medium. And I feel like when I started this, I was closer to a large, so I went to a large. And by the time I finished it, because I was knitting this for like more than 6 months, I was a little bit closer to a medium. And I also just, in general, I like fluctuate measurements all the time. But I'm actually really glad it's a large. I like the fit. It's just an extra couple stitches more relaxed. All of these sweater patterns are super basic. They're all written to be knit flat or knit in the round, depending on your preference. The only reason I do that is because I like to have that option if I'm going to use Noro or any other self-striping yarn, so that the rate of stripes does not change when I switch from knitting flat to the underarm to knitting in the round after the underarm. It's top down. So yeah, I knit the whole body flat. And then the sleeves are knit in the round regardless of how you knit the body. There's no need for anyone to be knitting their sleeves flat and seaming. I also love, as like a design element, the side seam on a self-striping yarn sweater. So super happy with this. This is knit in Noro Yukata, which is, it's one of their 200 gram like super size balls. And it is more of like a fingering sport weight. And it's, I forget the exact composition. It's at least 50% silk. It might be a little bit more than 50% silk. And then the next chunk is wool. And then there's a little bit, maybe 10% nylon. That is the vibe that I remember. I can't tell you for sure the composition of this yarn. My first design using this yarn was actually when it was brand new. And I used 2 colors alternating for the segments on my modular pattern, Beads of Joy, also lovingly known as my anal bead sweater. This is good, by the way. Delicious. And yeah, happy to go back to it. Here's the thing, and I explained this to my testers, and I think everyone got what I meant by it, but I also need to make sure this is explained on the pattern page when I publish this pattern, because I do feel like this is the kind of thing that just really confuses the hell out of some people. Um, which it would me too if I didn't like realize. But the name of the pattern is DK, drop sleeve sweater. See, now I can't say the pattern name, but it's the DK weight one, right? And then the recommended yarn, Noro Yukata, I would say it's a sport weight. I think the Noro label might call it a fingering weight. I don't even know if that's on the label, but if not the label, then like the Knitting Fever website might call it a fingering weight. I don't remember. Also, Ravelry has their own distinction, and sometimes the brand and the Ravelry page are in disagreement about what a yarn weight is, because like those lines can be blurry. It isn't totally square. But I think people would be confused as to why I'm publishing something that I'm calling a DK sweater that the recommended yarn may even be called fingering weight on the yarn page. And the reason is because the gauge is like a typical comfortable middle of the road DK yarn weight gauge. 5 stitches per inch is like, in my mind, very typical of DK weight yarn. But I often, when I'm knitting Noro, I love to size down 1 to 2 yarn weights than what you, either the recommended yarn weight of a pattern or what you would typically use to get whatever gauge you're using, because of the characteristics of Noro yarn. I would not say that you could just definitely take any fingering weight yarn and plug it into this pattern and get a result that looks like this. The characteristics of Noro yarn that make it work so well in doing that is that it's a single ply construction. Single plies tend to be more floofy and plump than plied yarns. And then it's also woolen spun. So again, it's like got a lot of air in it. It's a little bit plumper and takes up a little bit more space. And then along with those two things, the fact that it's woolen spun, the fact that it's single ply also gives it, and just like the quality of fibers they use and the way that it's all prepared, gives it this really more rustic feeling where the yarn has like a lot of grippiness, toothiness, a lot of friction. It's not slippy, it's not drapey. And the fact that it is woolen spun and has all that air in it, it's kind of weightless for whatever weight it is, you know? So yeah, that makes it so that like a fingering weight yarn is able to be knit at a more DK weight gauge and take up the space of that gauge nicely without like, this isn't like see-through, it's not overly drapey, it's able to hold its shape. Like if you use a really, really fine yarn at a bigger gauge and it's a more drapey yarn, then it's always just going, the weight of gravity is going to weigh it down. And even if you knit a sweater that has a bunch of positive ease in the body or the chest, you get a sweater that ends up just draping way longer than you thought it would or than it's supposed to. The row gauge is just going to grow by nature of gravity, and the stitch gauge is going to shrink. But if you use the right kind of yarn, and almost all Noro has this exact feeling, then it's not heavy enough for it to get weighed down and lose its shape like that. All of those qualities lend itself really well. And I explained that in much briefer terms to the people who signed up to testnet. And I was kind of surprised that the majority of test knitters chose to use the recommended yarn, which I love, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. I would also, just so that there are examples, and I'm sure, I don't remember what yarn every person picked. I'm sure there's several people also using like typical DK weight yarn, but I do want to see that too, and I want examples of that for other knitters to look at when they're looking at the project page for this pattern on Ravelry. But there's several reasons I like doing that with Noro. For one, it's economical. You need much less yarn if you're using a lighter yarn weight at a heavier gauge, because this, you know, has like almost 400 yards per 100 grams, whereas a DK weight yarn is gonna only have 250 yards per 100 grams. So you need less yarn. I also find it like, ever since I injured my hands from at the time, I was spinning, knitting, and playing violin, all three like a really unhealthy amount, like 12 hours a day for like a month. And I ended up badly injuring my hands in a way where I was kind of feeling like I was slowly recovering from that over the course of like a year, honestly, which was scary. And anytime anyone tells me that they're dealing with hand or wrist, finger injuries, that resonates with me. I feel for you. It's horrible. And especially as someone who's like, it's not just the knitting for me, it's also my violin playing and my piano playing and my jewelry making and my spinning and my weaving. Like, I just am using my hands constantly for everything that I do professionally and for everything that I like to do for fun. It's so scary. So ever since then, I've like identified a lot of strategies that help me keep my hands healthy. The most obvious thing is just not overdoing it. But one thing is like, I've learned, I already was not a super tight knitter, but I've become even much looser and even more relaxed since then. And part of that is like, some yarn and needle combinations are just gonna have more wear and tear on your hands. Like, they're just more difficult to knit and you have to use more force. And because Noro especially is such a grippy yarn, I actually don't like to really ever knit Noro at the intended gauge. Like, I like to take the worsted weight Noro yarns and knit them at a bulky gauge. The DK weights can go to like a worsted. I've done even like Silk Garden sock at like, which is also like fingering sport weight. I've done that at a worsted gauge, so even bulkier than this. But I would say Silk Garden sock this is closer to a true fingering, whereas Silk Garden sock is more of a sport weight. So yeah, that's the reason I do that, but people can use whatever they want. I'm a big fan of use whatever the hell you like, as long as you get gauge. And even if you don't get gauge, maybe you're fine with that, or can figure out a way around that, or don't mind doing the math to redo a pattern, or you don't mind just knitting and seeing what happens and then deciding if you like it or not at the end, which is crazy to me, but I know y'all are out there. Also wearing just a little bit of lipstick and just a little bit of blush. I really beautify, and some perfume. Like, I know you can't smell me, but I like to set the mood and really be beautified and feel good for recording. Makes a difference. But I'm wearing the Glossier, I think it's called their Ultra Lip. It's the one that's like a really sheer tube of lipstick, but it's more like a gloss. I've always loved those. I'm using the same ones that I bought like a few years ago because I don't wear them that often, but also the packaging sucks. I don't know if they've changed it. I mean, Glossier kind of was huge, and then I feel like they flopped. Like, a lot of people stopped liking them as much. Yeah, you can't carry them in any bag without it coming open. And then I also put a little bit of the cloud paint on. I don't know what shades. Actually, the lip is Fete. Fete, I believe. And then I also like Portrait for the lip. And then the cheek is like the tube is like the dark red one. It's like Storm or something. I don't know. I use such a small amount because it's really easy to like build on it. It comes out really sheer. You know what, before I get any further, I want to go ahead and announce something really exciting, which is that we are moving on up in the world of my brand and YouTube, and we have our first ever official James and Wants YouTube channel sponsor. Thank you so much to Westwool for sponsoring the channel. Woo! So I just want to give you a little intro to Westwool's bases. If you don't know Westwool, Westwool is Stephen West's in-house yarn company for his brand and for his yarn shop, Stephen and Penelope. They've been around for like years at this point. I actually feel like I did my first design with Westwool kind of early on in their history, but they've been continuing to like grow and tweak things and develop, and I have always liked using them. I love the direction they're going. Let's get into the bases. So they have 5 bases, and let's go finest to heaviest. So we'll start with their silk mohair, which is their glow hair, which I've used this before in my antiphonal shawl. And then they have 2 fingering weights. So the first fingering weight, don't I have another color out? Probably on the ground near my feet. But the first fingering weight is their tricycle, which this is like your typical, does it have nylon? No, but it's your typical superwash merino wool, 100% superwash merino wool. This is like great for your Stephen West shawls or any fingering weight shawl. This is like your most typical feeling fingering weight wool that you would expect to use in that kind of project, I think. And then after this, they have another fingering weight, and then it goes up from there. But the other bases are all non-superwash, and I love that they give you that one classic superwash fingering weight because there is a time and a place, like great for socks, great for shawls. But then I love that all of their other bases, I feel like all these other bases are probably from the same wool. They all feel pretty similar to me, and they're all non-superwash. So their fingering weight, which like you can tell, it's a huge difference. Like the non-superwash fingering weight is a lot plumper, and also I think it's just a 2-ply, where this is probably like a, I don't know if it says, but this is more of like a 3-4 ply. Yeah, this is just a 2-ply, which I also love a 2-ply for how much texture you get in the yarn. The more plies you have, the like smoother your finished yarn is. But this is their fingering weight bicycle, which I purposely picked out these 2 colors out of the stash they sent me because I love them together. I really want to try a little fingering weight color work in these. And then after that is tandem, which I don't know if I said, their superwash is tricycle, their fingering is bicycle. Do you sense a theme here? And then are these the same? Yeah, this is tandem, and this is their DK weight, so it's 254 yards per 100 grams, very typical yardage, as I was just saying in my Noro yarn talk. And then lastly is their cargo, which, does cargo have a bike reference to it? All the labels have a different bike illustration on them, which is fun. And now I'm trying to figure out, you have a tandem bike on tandem, and then cargo is like, okay, it's like a big ass basket, like you're carrying a bunch of stuff on your bike around Amsterdam, carrying your tin whips and a bunch of yarn. But I love this bulky weight. It is very chunky, woolly and nice and soft. All of their non-superwash bases, because superwash tends to have a little bit of a smoother, softer feel, and non-superwash can lean more rustic, but it's still merino and it still has a very gushy, soft hand while also having a little bit of that natural feeling. So I really like that. I would love to put these together in like some brioche or something. I also feel like Steven just used this. He just came out with like a really vanilla sweater pattern that I feel like is in this exact yarn and shade, which this is a lot like the color I used for my best vest, so a green that I historically love. But yeah, they have just expanded their color range to 100 colors. I find that the price point is really decent, and I also love it as something sold that you can get from Stephen and Penelope, because they carry so much of the like really bright poppy speckle crazy indie dyed yarns. I love Westwool's house yarn as a complement to that when you are wanting to maybe pick stuff for a shawl or sweater where you want a mix of like variegated speckles with solids, then they have you covered on the solids. So Westwool has generously offered my channel viewers a coupon code for 10% off. It's all capital letters, James Watts 10. I will put that in the description of the video. And they also gave me a link where you can just shop from that link and already have the 10% coupon applied to your cart if that's easier. And just to let you know, that is not an affiliate link. It's just a special link where you don't have to put in the coupon code. Yeah, thank you, Westwool, and I'm so excited. They also sent me, we were talking, I pitched them this idea, and they were totally on board, and I was like, okay, like, it'd be great if you could send me a few samples of your bases so I can talk about them, and I was like, no need to, like, go crazy and send me kilos and kilos of yarn, and of course, they, like, majorly hooked me up with more yarn than I will ever be able to knit. It just comes and comes and comes. So I think I have more than enough to do a little giveaway. Kind of a big giveaway. Like a nice Westwool sampler pack. I'm gonna put together 2 sampler packs to give away. So how do we want to do this? To enter the giveaway, I want you to comment under the video something that you're looking forward to this summer. Whether it's a place you're gonna visit, a friend you're gonna see, a meal that you know you're gonna have, like a flower or a vegetable that's gonna ripen or bloom in your garden in the coming weeks. Like, let me know what you're looking forward to. And it would also be super helpful just because I have all the yarn here in my possession and shipping is so expensive for just like a regular consumer, like peer-to-peer shipping. I'm gonna limit the giveaway of yarn to American viewers, but I don't wanna cut anyone out of the giveaway. So for international viewers, I'm gonna give away 2 copies of my modular pattern ebook, Magnificent Modular Knits Volume 1, I believe is her God-given name. So what would help me, and I mean, this is part of it, you need to do this, put something you're looking forward to this summer and then also put in parentheses or something if you are either put US or international, so I know, okay? Sorry if you would really love to be entered into the giveaway for the yarn and you're international, but at the very least, I can offer some pattern packs. And yeah, thank you so much for sponsoring the channel, Westwool. Woo! Okay, so I mean, that was kind of the end of my segment, but since I'm already on the topic of Westwool, I have started swatching for a new design just in their glow hair held just by itself, which I'm trying to think if I've designed in mohair held alone. My slug core color is like a very, very thick mohair, but I have not done anything in your traditional lace weight mohair held by itself that I can think of. And I've been swatching cables. I still have more swatching to do. I don't know if you can see it that well on this, but this is like the same stitch, but half the swatch I did like a lot of rows between cable rows, and the other half of the swatch, the cable rows are much more like fast paced, like less rows between them. I think I prefer, like this seems like a little bit wonky looking, like there's too many plain rows between cable rows, and I like when it's less rows up here, but I might want to try something in between the two. I also was doing it so that the cable was happening in the exact same place, the exact same row for all the spots of the motif. I also want to try staggering the placement of the cables in the columns and seeing how I like it. But I think I might like keeping it square like this. I had posted a picture of this on one of my Substacks, and Casey of Port Fiber commented that it looked like knit stitches, which I really love that comparison. I don't know if you can tell that from this, but you kind of get these like large repeated V's. And that would probably be lost if it was staggered, but it might look beautiful in a different way. So I actually need to get a move on this. I've been kind of slow with this idea. Like, this swatch is over a month old at this point probably. But it's only so many hours in the day and there's so much knitting to do. I've also historically been a cable hater. A hater of knitting cables, not a hater of cables as a design element. I think cables are very beautiful, and I think the main reason that I haven't loved knitting them is because they slow me down. But I also think, I don't think I'd ever be able to knit cables as quickly as I could knit plain stockinette, certainly, and probably even lace, because I can really get fast once I like internalize a lace motif. But I'm sure I could get much faster with cable knitting just through practice, because I'm not that practiced at it, even though I've known how to knit cables since I was in middle school. I like taught myself how to knit a cable braid and made a whole scarf out of it in middle school. And that was the last time I knit cables. This is gonna be for a sweater that I would like to come out in October if I am able to get the wheels turning and everything in motion soon enough. Let me know if you have any thoughts or preferences on raglan or drop sleeve. I'm leaning towards drop sleeve, but raglan could also be really nice, and I'm kind of open to either. Let me know. That is my glow hair swatch. And then I actually took notes before this episode. I wanna also show off my current most recent finished pair of socks as of today. This was another reason why I was not mad at having to re-record, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna finish this pair of socks that I tried to show on my other recording as a whip, and now it's finished object. But these are my socks, and probably they are the most beautiful socks I've ever knit. They're the most on-brand socks I've ever knit, and the most beautiful colors for a James & Watts pair of socks. I've been a huge blue and green stan since I was a child, and I continue to be. It has that, especially these like electric saturated shades, just are so nostalgic to me and like take me right back to being a kid. The yarn is, I believe the company was called White Birch Fiber Arts. I bought it at Chicago Yarn Con, where I only ended up buying sock yarn, which was wild. All self-striping sock yarn. And then for the toe, heel, and cuff, I used this, it's like, what's the word for this? Tonal? It's like a very tonal. It's like, obviously like kind of partially dyed over a white base. But it's like this tonal sock yarn that you can get from Pearl Soho. I don't remember if there's a name for this color or the name of the yarn, but you'll find it if you want to. Yeah, I love subbing in the other yarns for the contrast. I mean, this isn't really contrast. I actually intentionally picked something kind of complementing, though I would have loved either like a bright yellow or a bright red as a contrast. But I do that because then I end up using, I haven't weighed the ball, but history has shown that I end up using well under 50 grams, so less than half of the ball. And I'm starting to try to collect these, you know, little bit over half still remaining balls of self-striping sock yarn that I can like eventually trade with other people who like to hang on to their self-striping sock yarn remnants, because they're expensive. Like, oh my God, the majority of the indie dyers who were selling self-striping sock yarn, it was going for like $40 a skein, which is a lot of money. Like, it's really a lot of money to spend on one skein of sock yarn. But from what I understand, it's an extremely labor-intensive way to dye yarn. So charge whatever you want to charge, babe. Charge $60. I probably won't be buying it at that point. Oh, sorry, I just tapped the mic. I probably won't be buying it once it hits 60, but I think you should charge what you want to charge. And can you believe how many socks I've knit? I've never been a sock knitter like this in my life, but it's like I was so excited to cast these on, and I knit the first sock in like 3 days, and then the second sock took probably over a month, just because I was I've been knitting all sorts of things. I've been busy. But it's just nice to have as an option. Like, even if I haven't knit in a few weeks, there'll always come a day where my sock whip is the most obvious thing I could knit. Like, I'm going to take public transit to a doctor's office visit. I don't want to have my sweater for that. I mean, if that's all I had, I'd probably take it, but then there's always a chance I bring it and don't knit it. But a sock, usually, if I take it and I'm just sitting somewhere, I'm going to knit it because it's so mindless to knit. So I love that. I want to keep up my sock knitting process. What was the word I was looking for? My habit, I'll say. But I brought out some yarns that I could use for my next sock. I have this Laine du Nord watercolor sock, and it says you get 2 identical socks. This is pretty. But here's the thing with this. I feel like it's 100 grams, it's 458 yards, and you get 2 identical socks, and the sock it shows is pretty long. So I feel like to get the full color gradient and to get the 2 matching socks, you have to knit the whole ball, which I've done that before. My favorite pair of socks I did that with, but that was also because I really loved the gradient in that yarn, and it felt like worth it to me to have a really long pair of socks where I used every yard. The gradient in this is pretty. What I really liked about the gradient in the other socks, if you remember it's the first rib socks that I knit for myself. The like sunsetty colors are like orange, pink, purple. They're a gradient, but it's like a striping gradient. The gradient repeats throughout the sock. This is just like one long gradient. It goes from yellow to like yellow green to blue to purple, and then kind of back to yellow. I almost thought that it like mirrored at the halfway point, but no, it goes green, blue, purple in the middle before it goes back to yellow. But it's like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like you don't get to see the majority of the colors probably with how this is going to end up. But I do think it would still end up being really pretty. And I don't have to knit the whole thing. And if I could still make matching socks, I would just need to rip through a portion in the middle and set it aside as scrap yarn. If I do these, I think I would like to knit rib socks, which I've just been knitting vanilla socks. If you don't know, rib socks are they 2x2 or 3x3? They're my 2x2 rib sock pattern. That feels right. And they're $3 on Ravelry. It's my cheapest pattern. It only comes in one size, but it truly is like a one size fits all, unless we're talking like baby feet. Because the ribbing is like so cinched, you end up with a sock that's like this big around, but it can stretch like infinitely. So if I go with this, I'll probably do rib socks. And then I love this, but it's so similar to what I just knit. And even when I bought this, I was like, why am I buying these 2 yarns that are like the same? But they're different enough, and it's because these are my favorite colors. This has more colors. These are just blue and green, and then within the blue and green, there's a little bit of a inner, like the stripe goes lighter in the middle. This is more of like a little gradient moment of like 2 shades of blue, 1 shade of green, and also definitely a lot of purple. It shows you how it's going to end up on the label, which I like. So I definitely think these would end up looking different and be a very enjoyable knit. I'm not sure what I would use for my contrast color. I might need to honestly, I would love to order a bunch of solid colors so that I have heels and toes ready to go. I have kind of a lavendery purple I could use. I have a brown, I have a yellow, like a highlighter yellow. And then this is a more goth, dark purple, black, gray. Is there brown in this? Not really, but there's a little bit of a brownie vibe to some of the purple shades. This is another option. I'm curious to see how distinct these stripes would actually come out while knit, because all the colors are quite close together and sort of dark, but I did find it beautiful. And this is from Passion Yarns. And this is from Bah Yarns, like B-A-H, Brenda and Heather Yarns. Vote down below, please, because that's kind of my feeling, is that like I need to get a new sock on the needles quick, or maybe I'll never knit another pair of socks. Let's see. There's only a few days left of the Grand Mesh Knit Along that I've been hosting, which has gone on for like 2 months. We had our 4 in-person knit nights around the city, and if you are Chicago local or were in town visiting, as some people were, and came to any of my knit nights, thank you so much. It was really fun and cool to get to meet so many talented, cool, sexy mesh knitters, and also a great chance for myself to get to see all these shops, mostly for the first time. We finished with Miss Pearl last weekend, and we had a great time. The vibe there was excellent. Good music, good snacks, kind, warm, funny people. I loved it. But I loved all my knit nights, honestly, and I would do events at any of those stores again, and I hope I do, honestly. Certainly if I do another Cal while I'm living here, which I assume I will, I would plan on doing something similar again, just because it was fun. It was also easy. So again, thank you if you came and we got to hang out and knit together. I'm very grateful for that. I hope you got a cookie and you enjoyed it. I baked a different cookie recipe for every knit night in the summer heat of my apartment, and if that is not love, I don't know what is. But I am, of course, participating in my own Cal by knitting a sample for a new design, and of course it's a new Look at My Holes design, and I keep joking that I want to name further Look at My Holes patterns like Look at My Holes again and Look at My Holes one more time, but maybe I will. But it's also just nice to have a descriptive add-on. So this is going to be Look at My Holes drop sleeve. This isn't even in testing yet, so I could still change my mind. The name has not really been publicized anywhere, but here it is. It's knit from Magpie Fibers Nest in the color Twilight Brew. Like I know I have a skein somewhere near here, but also here's that other skein of Tricycle I was looking for earlier. I have a skein of this laying around somewhere, but I'm pretty sure I'm telling you the correct yarn and the correct name of the color, Twilight Brew. I love how this is turning out. I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of wear out of this. I've always wanted to do a cool weather, warm fiber mesh, like long sleeve mesh. I do have like long sleeve mesh designs, but they're all still intended as summer or transitional pieces. They're not knit out of wool. Actually, the original pure mesh pullover is knit out of wool, but it's lace weight. It's like, it's not warming you at all. It's literally fishnet, skin tight fishnet sweater. I went to the trouble of doing a tubular bind off on the collar. I did not do it on the hem. That's too much work. But I did it on the collar and it turned out really beautifully. And then I'm not sure what website I looked at for the instructions, but I know I ended up doing a different one for the cuff. And like, there's just this, for one, I think my tension was a little bit too loose on the sewing, and that's a me thing. I think I could have been tighter, but there's also a little bit of an appearance of like because I did the 2 slip stitch rows that you do before a tubular bind off. I did that on the collar too, but there's something with that is like creating a little line of tension, like 2 rows beneath the bind off, that I feel like, I don't know if it's from the slip stitches. Like I said, I did the slip stitches here and I don't see it, so I feel like it must be from the bind off instructions that I used. And it was enough time between doing the collar and doing the cuff that I do remember that it was a different website, but I don't remember how, if or how the instructions actually differed. But just based on how different they look, I feel like there's something slightly different about the instructions. I'm also, I mean, it's fine. It's still pretty. I don't know if you can see that line I'm talking about. The edge is just generally a little bit lumpy, but like I said, I think that is from, I think that's from doing the sewn bind off a little bit loose. Also, what the hell is the difference between a tubular bind off, an Italian bind off, a sewn bind off, an Italian sewn bind off? I also saw Italian tubular bind off. I was like, I found a Reddit discussing this, and there were people in there insisting that they are definitely different techniques with different instructions. But then I did find websites that were just like mishmashing all of these terms together. Someone said that the only difference between tubular is doing the prep rows where you do the slip stitches. And others were saying that the bind off itself is different. I don't know. There's more. I have one more chance because I have to knit the other sleeve, and I need to do that quick. I'll probably pick up stitches for that at least tonight. But I do think it'll come together quickly. This sleeve ended up being many less rows than I thought it would be, and it's just funny the way knitted fabric behaves and the way gauge behaves. That like, whether you're knitting flat or you're knitting in the round, and also how many stitches you have, like all of those factors can really change your gauge, because I am like spot on with the gauge that I got with my swatch on the body, and like all of that as the measurements I expected. And then I calculated the sleeve for me, it's a little bit longer than I write in the pattern because I'm taller than like the average height of most people who knit my patterns. And I had a feeling before I was done, like I still had a few rows to go. I was like, this sleeve is looking a little long. So I did a mid-project block, which I almost never do. But I'm glad I did, because I ended up needing to rip out like a pretty decent amount of the sleeve. And then I just did a few extra decreases to get to the stitch count I wanted for the cuff. And it looks fine. It doesn't look like I accidentally made like a balloon or a bubble sleeve. The taper still looks right to me. But yeah, like, I mean, always strive to get gauge, but also understand that if you're going from knitting 200 stitches in the round to like 80 stitches in the round, or flat versus in the round, all of that can change your gauge. And sometimes you need to check as you go, or change things up, or alter the pattern. Yum. I love that they don't put dyes in these drinks, because I'm sure these Ghost Energy drinks are already full of poison, and I don't need any added poison for it to have a fun color. But you know what? When I pour, you know the light blue Monster? Do they even have that here? I think they do. I know I was drinking that a lot in Croatia. I love that light blue color. Also the green one. I love the green color. So it's like, on one hand, the colors do add something for me, but if you force me to pick, I choose to not have artificial dyes in my energy drinks, because I need to choose my battles. I need to literally pick my poisons, and I'm picking the poison of the 1,000 chemicals in here that make my brain work, and not the dye. I don't need any dye. I also bought 2 cases. This was last month. I bought 2 cases of Sprite Zero plus tea. I don't know if y'all have seen the Sprite plus tea. First of all, let me just say, the like drink and candy industry has just been like popping off. Maybe snack foods too. I don't eat a lot of snack foods, but I don't really pay attention to those aisles. But I'm always looking at the drinks, and I also pass by candy more often, and I see there's always new stuff every week, and that's just fun and exciting. I like that. I like especially that they are making all these new flavors of soda, and they're offering them in zero sugar or in diet. That's all I'll drink. But if you like regular, they also tend to have it in regular. And the Sprite with tea, you can get either. I was actually not expecting them to offer that one in zero, and I was really surprised when I found it. But It is so delicious. I like bought a single can at there's a smoke shop slash convenience store right by my house, and I bought a single can there and I really liked it. And then there was a deal at the grocery store, so I ended up buying 2 cases. And the tea flavor was so pronounced and delicious. But by the time I got through my 2 cases, like by the time I had had like 6 or 7 cans of that soda, I couldn't taste the tea anymore. And I was like, damn, I really thought this had a strong tea flavor that I really was loving. And I like can't taste it at all anymore. And I thought it was just like a me thing. But for sure, I was like, this just tastes like Sprite to me. By the time I was finishing the last cans, I was like, this dead ass tastes 100% like Sprite. I don't taste the tea at all. And then my friend Laz, who's also in the city, he and I went to music school together in Houston when we were babies. We had a beach day the other day, and he knew I loved that soda. He loves it too, and he brought me a cold Sprite with tea zero. And I was like, oh my god, I love this. And I ran out of mine like 3 weeks ago. Like, I can't wait to have this. And oh my god, my neighbor's going into his house right now. It's so distracting. Please don't look at me making my YouTube content, neighbor. Okay, mind your business. He's so nice. I like all my neighbors. He's never like staring into my window or something, but I do have my window open so I get a little extra light. But he gives me the tea Sprite, and I open it and I take a sip, and like bam, it hits me in the face, like strong ass tea flavor. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I know I'm not imagining this. Like, this is what it tasted like the first time I had it, and it's why I liked it so much, and it's why I bought 2 cases. And then the more I drink it, I couldn't taste it anymore, and then I had a tolerance break, and suddenly I could taste the tea again. And I told Laz that, and he was like, oh my god, no, I noticed the exact same thing. The more you drink it, the more you can't taste the tea. And I was like, what is it? If there are any drink scientists in the chat, please let me know if you know some science behind this. I should Google this. Maybe people are writing about it. It's so interesting to me. I'm sure whatever makes it taste like tea is probably like artificial. Like, I feel like they're probably not actually brewing black tea. Because I also saw it has no caffeine in it, but I don't know. The moral of the story is it's a drink that is literally designed for you to not overconsume, okay? Enjoy it reasonably and tastefully, and just have 1 can a week if you want to be having it. And then you get the best tea flavor. I thought of that because this is a lemon iced tea flavor. It's really good. It does taste like tea. I wonder though, if I started drinking these every day, which I will not because they're expensive and I don't need that much caffeine, would I lose the ability to taste the tea? That's the question. Anyway, that's good. The Mesh Knit Along ends on Friday, and probably if you're not already participating, it's low-key a little bit too late, but depending on how long it takes me to get this video up, you could knit a pure mesh tank top if you have time. If you're super busy, then probably not. But if you have time the next few days, you could knit a pure mesh tank top start to finish really quick. Post it on the Discord, which is in the link in my bio on Instagram. I probably will forget to put it in the video description. And then you can be entered for prizes. We have so many good prizes up for offer. There's a Ritual Dyes gift card, a Westwool gift card. I've got 2 prize packs from Happy Creative Studios, those little yarn ball holders I was showing before, and then she also does stitch markers. I have sample packs of a bunch of Noro yarns, sample packs of a bunch of Juniper Moon Farms yarns, and then I'm giving away a lot of patterns as well. I forget exactly what I said, but at least like 5 pattern packs. You know what I used to love to do for giveaway is to give people my full pattern library. But I'm starting to really accumulate a lot of designs in my pattern library, and that's a lot of patterns to give away. And it's not even that it's like too good of a prize. The main thing is that it takes a long time to go in on Ravelry, and like I have to give each pattern individually. So it makes it much easier though now that I'm starting to have these ebooks that, like, an ebook is a really fun and great prize. I could even give multiple ebooks. I have 3 of them. So maybe I just do my ebooks. we're having fun in the Discord. I've loved hosting it there. Thanks to everyone who's participating. And whether you try to get in on it really last minute or you totally missed it, join in on the next one. I want to try to do more cows. It's fun. It's easy. I like it. I want to do a modular cow for sure. Also, this will go into testing next week at some point. It kind of needs to for my timeline. So keep your eyes on my Instagram story. I'm sure I will post a link there to anyone who wants to sign up to testnet. Generally these days, I am letting anyone who wants to testnet as long as you sign up early enough. If there's a ton of interest, then I start to cut off signups for sizes as they sort of fill up, right? I love folding a knit neatly. It's satisfying. Okay, so I am also, this is exciting because I never am doing this. I never get to talk about this, but I'm knitting someone else's design for once in this life. I'm not just knitting someone else's pattern. I'm test knitting Jessie May's new pattern, her mesh pattern called the Niad pullover. I feel like that's been posted publicly. I don't think it's a secret. If it's a secret, don't tell me, because I'm going to talk about it on my YouTube. I have always wanted to use the solid color Noro bases, and I never, I'm sorry, I'm like fingering the skein in a disgusting way. I I always am very attracted to the solid color bases, but I never end up using them because my real loyalty and the real love of my life is the self-striping colorways. They're just so artful and inspiring to me that I always want to use them. And I was thinking about using Noro for this test knit, and it's a drop sleeve mesh sweater. Love that Jessie is also getting into mesh. I think we need more mesh on Ravelry and in the world. But I was like, it's a typical drop sleeve, like top down construction where you start flat, knit to the underarm, and then join the round, right? So I was like, this is the whole thing of why I like to have the option for my basic sweaters, is it messes with your color flow to do that. And I was like, you know what, why don't I was at Knit One for my knit night, and they had some sale yarns, and this was one of their yarns on sale, and I was like, they only had 2 skeins of this blue, which is kind of stretching it for what I might need to do this pattern. But I figured, I looked online, I could find more of this, so if I need to order another ball online, I can. This is Noro Silk Garden Sock Solo, and the color is T80. Yeah, just while I'm looking at a Noro yarn band, I'm curious what they put for yarn weight, and they use that other like more commercial description that I feel like we in the hobby don't actually use this as much, but it's number 2 and it's marked as fine. So yeah, but to me this is a sport weight, not really a true fingering weight, even though it's like their sock yarn. But also, people use sock as a weight designation, and that's one of the most like what does that mean designations. And I think it usually means either fingering or sport, something in between. Okay, that was just showing the yarn. I didn't show you the sweater yet. This is honestly going kind of quickly for something I've just been picking up here and there while I'm knitting my other stuff. This is the right side. I really like the mesh. It's like a stacked mesh motif, not a staggered one. So you have this really like clean grid-like mesh. One thing that Jessie said about this stitch pattern, which she came up with, that I find is true, is that it really almost kind of resembles like brioche, because it's sort of got a ribbed element to it. So you have the depth and the like stitch columns receding and projecting in a way that kind of mimics brioche in a pretty way. But it's a really simple, easy lace pattern. It's like a 2-row repeat. Um, and only one row is lace. The other row is just knitting and purling. And you memorize it really quickly. So far, the pattern is just like any Jessie May pattern. It's like really well written, organized, simple, easy to follow. She has you pick up stitches on the wrong side to create this visible shoulder seam. I love that element. And it just reminded me of like why it's so nice to knit other people's patterns, to be inspired and learn new techniques, and also see how they're formatting their patterns and the way they write their patterns, and how I might never think to write an instruction a certain way and whether I like it or I don't. It's just like interesting to see other people's style and perspective. So it's like, I find that to be generally true for any of the arts that I do, is that it's like really nice and helpful to take part in and consume other people's art, right? Just like as I'm getting more into jewelry, I still love to wear my pieces from other jewelers, and I still see myself wanting to buy jewelry by other jewelers. Like, I'm always gonna like love to see other people's work. Anything else to say about this? So I'm just to make this a little bit of a faster project, since as fun as it is to be knitting someone else's stuff, the reason I don't do it much is because I prioritize knitting my own new designs, which always takes a lot of time. I always have things on the go. So to make this a little bit more likely that I'll finish it, I wanted it to go faster. And also these decisions were more to, I think, my preferences for how I want to style this garment anyway. It's intended to have a ton of ease, like 10 to 14 inches of ease, and I'm knitting it with like 4 inches of ease or something. So I sized down 2 pattern sizes. I would have fit into a large on her grading, and I'm knitting a small. And then it's also supposed to be full sleeves, and I'm going to do a short sleeve. And I think it's going to turn out really nicely. There's also some other techniques that I've never done later on. There's like a lateral braid, which I don't actually know how that works. I'm excited to see how that knits up. It's a very beautiful element on the hem of the sweater. That is my Niad pullover, my test knit. It's so fun to be test knitting. Can't wait to fill out my feedback form. What else is there to talk about? I have an event and some travels coming up this month. I am going on my cabin trip with my friends to our friend's cabin up in the Pacific Northwest in Washington State. And last summer, we went on that same trip and we did an event at the Lamb and Kid yarn shop on Bainbridge Island. And we will be there again this month to do the same thing this year. And it was a fun, easy, sweet event last year. I'm looking forward to doing it again. If you are in Washington or on Bainbridge Island or anywhere in a reasonable commute of that yarn shop and you want to come, I highly suggest it. It's just like a fun knit night where you get to hang out with a bunch of cool knitters in a beautiful yarn shop with me, Park, and Jessie May. Yeah, I highly recommend it. As I said, the shop is really beautiful. It's very inspiring. They have excellent colors. They especially do great blues and greens, which I'm always looking for. That is... Did I write it down? I literally looked it up, but didn't write it down. But I'm pretty sure it's July 25th. That feels right in my bones. It's a Friday. At the Lamb and Kid on Bainbridge Island in Washington. Hope to see you there. And what else do I have coming up or going on? I'm looking forward to that trip, honestly. The cabin is beautiful. It's on the water in the bay there. I don't know the names of all these like Washington places. Sorry, but it's beautiful there. It's in kind of one of those temperate rainforest type parts of the state. So I've done a little bit of weaving. I had this pair of pants. If you read my Substack, you probably already read about this, which if you don't know, I write a weekly Substack that is just a total variety blog. I write about my life, I write about my thoughts, I write a lot about my knitting and my crafting and whatever crafty stuff I'm doing, my music, Um, Yesterday I published one just talking about how much I love having a home radio and listening to the radio and trying to convince you to maybe think about investing in a cheap little home radio for yourself if you don't listen to the radio, which I feel like probably a lot of us don't these days. But uh, I wove on my ankle loom a narrow band to replace the drawstring of these pants. These are my favorite pants, which are these like camo pants from Jaded London that I bought a few years ago. I wear them all the time, but I never untie and retie my drawstrings, and I was going to the bathroom and trying to shimmy the pants back up over my hips, and I snapped the drawstring that came with the pants. And I like knew right when I snapped it, I was like, well, obviously I'll just have to weave another one because I can. And it's like it's fun to actually have a really practical reason to use your ankle loom, right? But the other thing is that like this is the kind of thing, and I'm someone who sews. Like I don't know. I mean, Joanne is gone for one thing, but I don't really think you can step into most normal craft or sewing or fabric stores and find this kind of auxiliary notion of like a drawstring type material. I'm sure you can find them to order online if you know where to look. I'm sure I could find it, but I don't know where off the top of my head. So it is kind of a practical thing. Let me just show you a little bit closer. I love the colors I used. I just did a really simple, plain woven, simple pattern with purple, brown, black, and green. And I love the way it turned out. The only issue was that I broke the original drawstring in March, and it was not until June, I guess, that I found the time to get this going. Because in March I had another project on my ankle loom that was tablet weaving, which takes a long time. So it was a long time before I finished that band. That's my weaving update. What else? Oh my God, I'm not wearing any jewelry. I hate when I do that. I often am wearing jewelry even if I'm just sitting around at home. Here, let me put on a beautiful ring. This is a little bit tight on me. I'm gonna take it off. Let me put on, ooh yeah, let me put on this one. I just have a pile of jewelry behind me. So I actually was thinking about launching my jewelry brand today. Today is Monday the 7th. And that didn't happen. That's okay. It was like a long day this weekend of trying to get everything ready for that. And I realized that I needed to find a different host for my website, for the jewelry portion of my website that is more suited to selling and shipping physical product. Because like my PayHip, where I host jamesandwatts.com and I sell knitting patterns there, is really ideal for selling digital products, and you can list physical products, but it's not ideal. Like all of the shipping stuff is not integrated with shipping carriers. So I would just have to like input how much the customer gets charged. And like I could input that region by region, but it's just like stressful as someone who doesn't have any experience in selling and shipping physical products to like know how to navigate all of that. I also, through my research, now realize that like when you use a platform that is integrated with its shipping, they often have agreements with shipping carriers to get discounted rates, which I always wondered how businesses are able to ship things for much lower costs than when, like I was saying about my yarn prices, like I would love to open that up for international shipping, but in my experience, anytime I've tried to create a small package that I thought maybe I would ship overseas, it's like they end up quoting me over $100, which is crazy. But then you order something from a brand internationally, and you usually don't pay more than like $20 often, or less, you know. Now I'm starting to understand that. I always figured it was something like that, that somehow like commercial shipping has access to better rates. And now I realize that. So I ended up starting to pick a layout and a theme and get everything ready on a page powered by Shopify, which tends to be one of the more popular ones, I figured through my research for selling physical products. And that was already a hassle. I don't like to do the web design stuff. I'm not really good at it, and I don't have the patience for it, even with how easy they make to use their website builders with not a million, honestly. Shopify had like 20 or 30 free templates, and then they had a bunch that you could pay for, which were like $300 or $400 to use those templates, which I'm like, ew, seems like a lot. Feels like it should be like $50 or less for their pre-made templates. But they had a bunch of free ones that were like fine, 20 or 30 free ones. So I was trying some of those. And as I was figuring everything out with the website and setting up the like financial side, it let me know that I needed a state tax number, because for my digital products, there's, at least in Illinois and everywhere I've lived, in Texas and Florida and Illinois, there's no digital goods sales tax. Many other states do have a digital goods sales tax, I found out. But with the physical goods, it'll be charged with a regular Illinois state sales tax like anything else you would buy here. And I guess that gets paid to me, and I have to turn that into the states, either monthly or quarterly, depending on how much revenue I make. The point of this story is that I was asked for a state tax ID that I don't have. So it's a process of getting my business, which is registered officially in Texas, getting it registered in Illinois as well. So I have that tax ID number and can collect and pay taxes. So I filled out whatever form I think I need to fill out for that, and at this point it's a waiting game. I think it could be up to like 2 weeks before I think I'm probably gonna get like a physical letter in the mail that has that number, and I pray that it comes, because I'm ready. I have so much jewelry sitting here that I want to be selling to you guys, and I was talking a little bit about it in Discord and saying that I was maybe going to launch today, and lots of people were like, oh my god, we've been waiting, like I've been wanting to buy a piece of jewelry and I want to get one from you, like really sweet stuff. So sorry if you've been waiting a long time and looking forward to it, but before, I kept saying, like, it'll happen when it's going to happen. Like, I don't know. And I still don't know. But now I'm actively doing it. And the holdup is just, like, a logistical barrier. It's not, like, me being scared or, like, finding the right time or waiting till I have more inventory. Like, I'm totally ready. So, depending on when I get that number and my trip, because I'm going to be gone for, like, 2 weeks for, like, the second half of the month. That'll depend on when I launch, but it's probably going to be in August when that trip is over and done with. But that just gives me more time to enjoy working on a few extra pieces that I can list, because I have some beautiful stones laid out right behind me that I want to use. I mean, I have more than these, but these are the ones that I really want to use next. I have a prehnite and a purple chalcedony. Actually, I have two of these purple chalcedonies. This one's a little bit less translucent. But I have been working on some new pieces that are turning out really beautifully. I did this ring in morganite with a flush set rhodolite garnet. This was kind of synthesizing two techniques for the first time for me in a scary way, but it turned out well. And then I also have very simple, but just like really beautiful aquamarine ring. Pretty. And I also, as I was talking about last time, one of my hang-ups on launching was figuring out all my packaging and branding and stuff. And I did end up collaborating with Park's boyfriend, Kaden, who's an excellent graphic designer. he took some sketches I made and digitized them, and then he did the logo in the middle of this border for me, which I really love how that turned out. And then he also helped take my idea and digitize it for the other side. I love the way this turned out, so this will be inserted in the package. And I should get into the habit of carrying these around. I should put one in my wallet because people see my rings and ask me about them every once in a while when I'm out and about. And I have to say, oh my God, I made it. And they say, do you have an Etsy? And I say, well, no, but I'm gonna start selling. So anyway, that's the jewelry update. Really soon, guys. Can't wait. Let's see, I finally, last night, finished the book that I've been reading for, I don't know when I started it, maybe 6 weeks ago. And it was one that I got recommended off of TikTok that I love the sound of. It was called Between Two Fires. It has a beautiful cover with two skeletons in like knight's armor. And I think there's a fire between them. Or maybe there's two fires. I don't know. I was initially really taken in by the book, the atmosphere. I talked about it a little bit last time, I believe. I had already started at that point, but it's very like a video game. It's very like dark and gory, like Elden Ring, which is a game that I love. If you know, you know. And it took place in plague-ridden medieval Europe, and it has a real like Catholic element to the story that I find kind of cool and exciting, of all this like religious, sacred sounding writing. It's about a girl who like is talking to angels, and how the plague is being caused by like devils taking over all these towns across France. Anyway, as much as it grabbed me at the beginning, I did definitely lose interest throughout it, and the narrative of it wasn't making me like at night when it would be time to read. I wasn't like desperate to open my book and see what would happen next. And a little bit, I like forced myself to finish it. And I've found, as I've regained a reading practice for the first time as an adult in a long time, that I am a little bit of a completionist in that way, even if it takes me forever and I barely read. My last book too, I also was kind of bored with, but I just like powered through it really slowly. And I don't necessarily like that. It's hard for me because, especially if like the last book was the third book in the Earthsea series, and I love the first two books in the Earthsea cycle so much that like I was gonna finish that third book. And I do intend to, there's still more books in the series that I haven't read that I want to read, even though the third book was a little bit boring for me. And then this one, Between Two Fires, like I love the atmosphere and the themes of the book so much that I was like, oh my gosh, no, like this is like a perfect book for me. I need to keep reading it. In all actuality, I was bored. And yeah, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to decide halfway through a book that like, okay, I'm bored, like maybe I'll come back to this later. Because I've had a book on my bedside table that Park loaned me, and it's also one I've heard about before. And I've seen it recommended, and then Park read it, and she highly recommended it and told me that the main character, I think is what she said, really reminds her of me, which if one of my friends tells me that, then I definitely want to read whatever they're talking about. I've had that ready to go, and I've been excited to read it, but I haven't been letting myself read it because I'm like, I gotta finish Between Two Fires. But anyway, I finished last night. The ending was actually kind of exciting. And there's part of me that even is like, I might want to try reading this again in the future. I do think there is a world in which I could maintain focus and enjoy the book a little bit more fully, because there were also just parts that were a little confusing and wordy that I wasn't super focused on. But the next book that I'm going to start tonight is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. It's got a beautiful cover. And I have no idea what it's about. I didn't even read the little summary on the back. I've just seen it recommended on Book Talk, and now have a personal recommendation from Park, and Kaden, her boyfriend, read it and loved it as well. And it's seems like it could potentially be kind of a quick read. It's not a long book. How many pages is this? It's under 200 pages. So I really hope it grips me, because it's been a couple of books since I felt like I was really being gripped by a book, and that's what I want to feel. That's reading, exercise. I don't know. Exercise is fine. I have been busy, so I'm not like super prioritizing gym every day right now. I'm always back and forth. One week I'm gonna go every day, and the next week I'm gonna only go like 3 times. And right now, I definitely am gonna go a little bit less because I've got a lot I want to get done before my trip. But I do like to, I'm swimming a lot, and when it's not 100 degrees, I'm actually still running outside. It is kind of unpleasantly hot, but it's okay. I actually had my longest run ever last week. I ran 6 miles in like an hour flat. And I don't see myself ever becoming a marathon person, but I am mentally ill and sometimes make bad choices. So there's, never say never. That, I think a lot of people aren't marathon people. And then that midlife crisis hits and they're like, I'm going to run 26.2 miles. So I really hope I don't do that though, because I feel like that is not everyone needs to run a marathon. It's like not good for your body to run like that. Some people are built for that and most aren't. And I don't think I am. But then I ran that 6 miles and it felt kind of easy. And I was like, well, that's like a quarter of a marathon and it was only an hour. I could keep, I also felt like a comfortable pace the whole time. But running is also kind of unpredictable. Some days a 10-minute mile, which is my kind of usually my comfortable pace, sometimes that feels really difficult. And other times it feels so easy and like I'm going slow. It really is day to day. Here's one update that is like random, but I realized that I wanted to give this update last video and I didn't. So I want to make sure I give it today, which is that I have been telling y'all that I was going to have my butt surgery. And the butt surgery got canceled. I canceled it. It's not like an emergency, so like don't worry. It's like I can try to mitigate my butt issues on my own. But a couple of things. For one, I didn't feel completely confident in my doctor. I felt like he looked at me for 5 seconds and just wanted to rush me into surgery. And I also read some reviews about him that said as much. Many people had good experiences with him, but there was at least one review of someone who was like, this doctor butchered my surgery, which is such a scary thing to read about a doctor. And like, it doesn't mean they're a bad doctor. Everyone can have an off day, but you really don't want your surgeon to have an off day. And maybe that person who left that review had a really difficult butt, you know? But the main reason beyond feeling like I was being guided into a surgery a little bit rushed and that I felt like it may not even be 100% certain, or they were planning on doing a few things. I was like, maybe they don't need to be doing everything that they're planning on doing. But the main reason that I canceled is the cost. I don't know why like pricing in medicine is not more transparent. I mean, I'm sure the reason is so that we are less informed and just get scared and like get saddled with medical debt because people profit off of that, right? That's the reason. But you can call and ask for a price and they have to give it to you. So I called, I like couldn't stop going back and forth on whether I should do it or not. And I was so nervous about what it was going to cost. And I called the doctor's office and they were like, yeah, we'll get you a quote. But in the meantime, you should call the hospital and get a quote from them too. Because if you've ever had surgery in America, I don't know how it is elsewhere, you tend to get multiple bills from different people. You get like a bill from your hospital, which usually is the most expensive, a bill from your surgeon, and then if you're being put to sleep, you have another bill from your anesthesiologist. And sometimes there's other bills as well, like x-rays can sometimes be billed separately, even if you get them done in the hospital. But I was like, okay, let me call the hospital. And they ended up initially quoting me like $7,000. And then they called me back and were like, oh, actually, we have a more accurate quote for you. And it's going to be 9,000. And I had already decided, I was like, if this is going to be altogether more than like $3,000 or $4,000, I am not going to do it. If it were life-saving, or like if this were impacting my quality of life and my comfort day to day in an extreme way, then I would just say, okay, fuck it, I guess I'll be in debt. But for like the way the issue is going for me, I was like, I'm not spending $9,000 on this surgery. And that was just the first bill. I'd also have the bill from the surgeon and the anesthesiologist. But at that point, I'd hit my max out of pocket for my crummy insurance, and then the insurance would have to pay the balance. But I believe my max out of pocket is around 9,000 or 10,000. So don't want to hit that. Not worth it. At that point, it truly would be worth it to me to do medical tourism, which is why that is like such a common thing for Americans. But I would either go to Croatia, where I have friends who could like house me and help me recover. I had good experiences using private healthcare in Croatia, and as an American, I found it very affordable and like a high quality of care. Or I'd go to Mexico. So many people go do medical stuff in Mexico, and many of them have really good experiences doing so. So yeah, our country is broken, our medical system is broken and evil. Um, Luigi Mangione did not do it. They need to let our man go free. I was hanging out with him the night he supposedly did that. So he didn't do it. Also, if you think that that remark or that joke is like tasteless, I don't care. Keep it to yourself. If you want to go be an insurance company CEO bootlicker, do it somewhere else. That's butt surgery update. Butt surgery is off. If I start bleeding profusely from my butt, then I'll go to the hospital in Croatia. Gaming. Thank you for those who are like really concerned about me and wishing me well on my recovery for that. It's a big relief to not be having a surgery, especially when, as I said, I was like feeling like not sure I really needed it in the first place. It seemed like an aggressive solution to my problem. I finally started Hades on my Switch, which I've had. I bought it probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I only played for like an hour, and then I didn't get into it, but I'm getting into it, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's a reason. It's like a hugely popular game. It's a little bit stressful to play, as all rogue types are. It's a game where every time you die, you kind of have to start over, right? But it's beautiful. I like the way it looks. I like the NPCs and the dialogue, and there's lots of long-term goals that are really fun, of like rebuilding your little house and getting permanent upgrades that last even if you die. That's gaming. I don't know when this video will go out. It's been a while since I've done it on my phone, and we'll see how long everything takes, but I'll try to get it out tonight. Probably it won't be out before Knit Nat Chit Chat, but there is a Knit Nat Chit Chat live episode tonight, and if you're not keeping up, that is Park and Jessie May's knitting podcast, knitting and variety podcast that they do together, which I really love. They do once a month a live show, but they always post the live after. So if you don't make this live tonight, then watch the replay. I will probably be tuning in. I do feel like today's a rest day from the gym, but because I had such a late afternoon energy drink, I would like to go for a run, as like long of a run as I can stand. But luckily it's not a super hot day. But yeah, this has the potential to keep me up tonight, which I really value these days. The past few years, I've really turned my life around in my sleep hygiene, and I value it a lot now. So I don't like to do anything that's going to disturb my ability to fall asleep, and it's always helpful. It's one of the main reasons I love to exercise, is I sleep well. So that was the trade-off of getting to have a yummy drink, is that I should probably go for a run, which is a normal thing for me to do on any given day anyway. But if I hadn't had this drink, today would probably be a total rest day. So I might go for a run. We'll see. Their episodes tend to be pretty long, and I don't know what time it is, but I probably have time to go before and catch their episode. I have a bunch of yarn to wind. I have some swatches to knit. If this does go out tonight and anyone watches this tonight, I'm going live with Ritual Dyes for their Undine make-along tomorrow to talk all about their Undine yarn, which is a yarn that I love, but I want to knit some fun swatches before my live. So I'm going to work on that tonight. Um, yeah. If you're not already, follow me on Instagram, James and Watts. Go to jamesandwatts.com, sign up for my newsletter. Make sure if you want to catch when the. You know what? I'll also tell you now. You can follow my jewelry Instagram account, which is JNW Jewelry. There's only 3 posts on it at the moment, but I'll try to get some more. I have lots of beautiful photos and videos of jewelry I could be posting to get people hyped for the launch, whenever the hell that's going to be. If you like to read very short, entertaining, little humorous essays, check out my Substack. Sorry, I'm good at everything. jamesandwatts.substack.com. We did it, guys. This was July's podcast video. I probably won't see you again until August, and I look forward to seeing you then. Happy knitting, and I'll catch you later. Bye.